Okay, everybody, we are live. This is Reverend Jodi Suson with the podcast Self Care. We are also going live on Instagram. So I have a little story to share. Um, so I'm at a Redefining Medicine conference and I meet this amazing soul that I'm about to introduce you to. His name is Dr. Gary Montemayor, and I'm going to let him give you his bio because he'll do a better job than I will. But I will tell you that he was going down the traditional route and had a plot twist, right? And thank God for that, because this man is changing the dynamics of health in a way that's unrecognizable. So let me bring on Dr. Gary. Hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm fine. Thank you very much for that introduction.
Tell people, so first of all, you're welcome. And thank you for being here. I'm so grateful that the universe brought us together. Um, yeah, it was crazy. So I was sharing my pocket prayer cards, and you told me you were from the Cayman Islands. And I'm like, because that's where I got my pocket prayer card. That's where I created it, right? In the caves in the Cayman Islands. But tell people, please, your history, how you got started in medicine, your plot twist, what you did and what you're doing now. And then I've got a laundry list of questions that I'm about to ask you.
Sure. Okay. I started off in allopathic medicine, and I actually studied in Monterrey, Mexico, and did my clinical clerkships in the South Bronx in New York at a hospital called St. Barnabas. And it was a time when AIDS was rampant. We didn't
Mm,
know what caused it, but it was an internal medicine hospital, and we had a ward full of AIDS patients, and they were terminal, and we
mm,
didn't know what was causing it, of course, at the time. But I connected with them. I was just young, I was 25, and I was connected with them in a real human way. Um, you know, they knew their fate. We were trying our best to keep them comfortable and find out, what was going on, and so that led me to understanding the human condition and having a heartfelt connection. But because I thought allopathic medicine was it was kind of a leap of faith. When you give somebody a pill, you don't know if it's going to work or not. And so I just couldn't live that life of not knowing. I would be gutted every day, knowing that if I did something to somebody that wasn't right, that gave them a pill that caused their condition to worsen, I couldn't live with myself. The first rule of thumb is do no harm, and so I stepped away from medicine, went back into subsea engineering, and I got a degree in marine technology, and became a submarine pilot. And I explored the oceans, and uh, was voted in as a fellow of the Explorers Club of New York. Was given title uh, from the fellow of the Royal Geographic Society in London. And so I loved my 12-year exploration and diving into the deep sea and being a test pilot for submarines around the world. And after I did that, I was a U.S. diplomat for 12 years and decided, that I wanted to go back into medicine. So I retired and went back and found energy medicine. I found quantum medicine, and I studied it and loved it and couldn't stop. So after my master's, I went and got a doctorate and then a PhD, which was
You're
which
not
just
overdoing it at all, are you? Yeah, I said
what's
the doctor
that?
and I mean, like, goodness gracious me, right?
Yeah, I can't stop.
And that's beautiful, because that's the passion, is what your passion and my passion is, the law of attraction that brought us together, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so in my studies, I start one of my professors. I had some really famous professors I studied under at Quantum University. And one of them was Joe Dispenza. The other was Bruce Lipton. And there's others. The list goes on. Great names, great people. But the one who really molded my way of thinking was a professor of quantum physics, Amit Goswami. Dr. Goswami now has a university in India, and he's written countless number of books that I recommend to anybody who's into transcending spirituality into quantum physics and medicine. He's done a phenomenal job, and so I recommend him highly. But
And
yeah,
how do you
that's
spell
my
his
story.
name? How do I? It's
Amit, A-M-I-T, Goswami, Goswami.
mhm,
Yeah.
Goswami. Okay, and the name, you said he has a book out. Is that
He
right?
has several books out. One of them that I've read a lot of is The Quantum Doctor, and that's where I got all my information to expand out. It's the framework of my beliefs come from that book.
Ooh.
Now, there's other books that you would be very interesting, and one of them is I'm reading now is God's Not Dead, and he's using quantum physics to explain the existence of God, and that was very, very heavy, and I use it. I built a framework I sent you. It's called Quantum Medicine Primer, and I can ask that primer questions, and it'll answer it for me. And we're
Tell
going
me
to
about
share
that.
that today.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just going to show everybody these books real quick. I'm going to tell you that when you see the energy on these books, everybody, whew, I mean, you can feel it. This is The Quantum Doctor, and I will actually put this in the thread. So if you're watching it, you'll be able to get these links. So that's The Quantum Doctor. His first name is Amit. Is that correct?
Amit. That's correct.
Okay. And then I'm just going to close out these other screens real quick. And then the other one is here. Share the screen. God is not dead.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, people would like us to think that, there are some people who would like us to think that God is not, it is dead, and God is alive, and God is good, and God is leading the way right now for the earth healing. So it looks like those links are not sharing, but I will get these posted later after the show, so you can come back and view the show. We have a question, it looks like, maybe.
Sure.
Let's see. Caspi, will the live recording be available after the session? Absolutely. The show always airs the recording always airs on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and also on iHeartRadio, Audible, Apple, Spotify, Rumble, Podbean, and basically every podcast channel that you can imagine. So so enjoy what you can now, and come back and join us later if you can't stay for the whole show. So let's talk about what is quantum medicine and how does it fundamentally differ from allopathic or the conventional medical model that we all know today. Most of us grew up with this. So
that's right. Yeah, one of the things that that the allopathic medicine treats is the physical body. They do it in a way called upward causation. And what I mean by that is that they go from atoms to molecules, to organs, to systems, to the brain, to the synapse, and then that's consciousness, and that's where it stops. In quantum medicine, we have 5 different bodies. And those bodies, one is a physical body. The second body is going to be the vital body. We also know it as the human biofield,
Right.
the energy field.
Right.
We have the mental body,
Yep.
which I've just written a scientific paper on, that is the source of all human suffering. And the supramental is what people, theologians, and people into religion know as the human soul. The supramental is is the place where archetypes are: love, caring, joy, empathy, appreciation. And it also has a closet door. And in that closet door is a very special door because it contains reincarnation, karma, wisdom of our ancestors, morphic resonance, which we'll talk more about. And then the last body is called the bliss body. And the bliss body is the source. It's cosmic consciousness. It's the 0 point field. It's the quantum field. We know it exists by near-death experiences. We know it exists by Tibetan monks that are meditating in the freezing cold with a wet blanket over them, and they are their body temperature is normal. They've been there for 7 hours, and they're in a deep state called the lambda state, a lambda brainwave state, which is very rare. And we also know it.
The brainwave state, if you don't mind for a moment. You say it's very rare, but
Sure.
Can you expand upon that just a bit?
Sure. The lambda brainwave state is hyperactive. Some people would call it hyper gamma. And it's just a very high frequency wave, meaning that there's a strong connection to where they are. And that means that they're actually communicating. But when you're in the bliss body, you're actually in the delta wave. And delta is a slow wave, and it's where we go during deep sleep. And if you heard, or any of you have ever studied the telepathy tapes, one of the things that these nonverbal autistic children do is that I call them astronauts of consciousness, and they've been given the opportunity to communicate. And they say that whenever we go into deep sleep, that we have it all wrong, because they go into deep sleep. They say our being transforms to the cosmic consciousness, to the source, and we get downloads, and there we get premonitions, we get instructions, and then we come back. But because our mind is so busy, and it's downward causation, meaning that information flows from the source down the chain to our body, but at the mental body it's blocked. And it's blocked because, and we'll talk about this when we get into it, because there is a conflict there. And that conflict, when we start in quantum medicine, we want to know where the source of all disease, of all suffering goes. And we found it. And it's in the mental body. And you'll relate to it really well once we get into that.
Right? Emotional healing, toxic-free living.
Absolutely.
Because all of our physical suffering is brought on by our thoughts, because our thoughts become things to
That's right.
simplify what we're about to talk about.
That's right.
And get people excited.
They will get excited.
Yeah. Like, so just so you guys know who are watching now, and we have, we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different channels, and we can't see everybody who's here, but mark your calendar. What did we say? July 22nd, you're coming back for part 2.
Yes.
Mark your calendars now. I'm just telling you, because we're just scratching the surface of what Dr. Gary is about to tell you. So, okay. So carry on. So
Sure.
you're talking, So I had interrupted you on the lambda model, or the lambda brain, and you explained that. And so go ahead.
Yeah. So the other, we know subjectively that the bliss body is where you go in near-death experiences. I mean, this has been well documented. And you note that there's that people, when they go there, they come back and they go, yes, there is a God. There was the light, there was the feeling that I've never felt before, but I didn't want to leave, but they said it wasn't my time. Those are the kind of stories that go on and on infinitum. And the other way that we get there is DMT. And I'm not talking about ayahuasca or anything like that, but I'm talking about pineal gland gives off something called melatonin that when it hits a frequency, there's small crystals inside the pineal gland, and they reverberate with, and when that happens, it changes chemical composition, and it changes twice. And the second time that it changes, it gets to something called dimethyltryptamine, which is a strong hallucinatory substance that's in our body. And we do that with called the pineal gland meditation, where we actually, you can do it. Joe Dispenza is very famous for it. And that's where, people can do that and get enlightened. I know when I do it, I know that I'm taking off. I go, oh, I can feel myself levitate. I can see myself. And then I'm over, the mountains with my arms like this going, and I'm just did a meditation. And, I'm a novice meditator. I mean, I've been doing it a long time, but there are people that go a lot deeper than I do. And it's pretty life-changing. And
so let me tell you, if I may, the funnest
sure,
time I had doing that. So it was back in 2017, and I'm on an acupuncture table with needles, right? And I'm blending that with sound frequency, binaural beats, putting my brain in a theta state. Honey, I was floating.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're in the supramental. Yeah, that's theta. It's magical.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that a long time. And I have been able to do that without needles and BOD or the sound frequency device. However, it's not as easy.
Right. I love the way you said that. Just to pivot to sound healing, I purchased a vibroacoustic bed for my clinic, and we do sound bowls, and they vibrate, and they have, this bed has speakers right on the side. Then it has these vibrations that go with it.
I think I've seen it.
Yeah, it was at the conference we were at together.
Yes, and it's amazing.
Yes, you got on that?
Oh, hello.
Yeah, me too. I waited in line for that thing.
Right.
And I had to have one. Yeah. So it was amazing. It was, it was one of these, when we can't have somebody, doing, sound bowls, this is the next best thing, but then doing energy healing at the same time. And that they're in that deep state, because I can actually see, because I put in an electroencephalogram, I can see their brainwaves. And when I'm doing my energy, I actually can see as well as feel where energy is blocked or not working. So that's really interesting as well.
Okay, you stepped into it, so
yeah.
You know where I'm going. So
yes, I do.
I cater to the mental health community, and in my book, Emotional Healing, Toxic Free Living, one of the reframes for mental health is that to understand the root cause. Now, we know that when people have these disease states, which we'll work with those words and labels for the moment, right? It's brought on by trauma. But what people are not connecting the dots to is that trauma is oftentimes chemical trauma, which then has them jump out of body, disassociate. And it can, it does, it's not that it mimics Alzheimer's, dementia, bipolar, and the list goes on. See, there really, and by the way, this show is for entertainment purposes only. I need to get that going. so that you can keep it on. Here we go. So yeah, show is for entertainment purposes only. Thank you, YouTube. So it's not that it mimics that state that we're talking about where someone jumps out of body, that it mimics bipolar. So there is no bipolar, right? It's a label that was used to describe spiritual disruption. And that's really what's happening. And so when you modify the lifestyle and go from poisonous pills, poisonous produce to plants and prayers, and I'm not telling you you need to go vegan, like when I say plants and prayers, I mean, like, really just kick poison to the side, okay? Kick it to the curb, bring on, the clean living, and watch your life change for the better, right?
Right.
And if I can do it, which, and reverse 54 chronic conditions,
Wow.
yeah, right. So if I can do it, because I'm just a kid, and I did it when I was not a practitioner. I did it because the choice was either modify my lifestyle, reset old belief systems, create these new behaviors, or die. Choose.
Yes.
Well, the outcome. There you go. You don't have to read the book.
Yeah, absolutely. I started on it last night, so I got a good summary. Just kind of breezing through it. I can't wait to get into it. But
Thank you.
on that note,
Yeah.
let's go. We're talking about the 5 bodies and the difference between allopathic medicine and quantum medicine, and we talked about upward causation, where the way that allopaths look at life is very linear. And in other words, they start with atoms, molecules, systems, organs, and then brain and consciousness stops there. They say consciousness is nothing but a synapse in a decision when you make a decision. So that said, when we look at it, that automatically tells me that that's very limiting. We don't bring any kind of consciousness into allopathic medicine. But in the 5 bodies, we have what's called downward causation, where from the bliss body or the source, is where we have, it's the domain for all possibility. It is the multiverse. It is parallel. It is where the Akashic records are. Everything that lives there is, and it's called the human spirit, okay, by a lot of people. And it filters down into the supramental. And the supramental is supramental intellect. And it also is the reservoir for the archetypes: love, caring, joy, empathy, appreciation, gratitude. It all lives there. It lives there. And we'll be able to prove that to you shortly. And then, of course, the closet of reincarnation and karma and all that lives, and morphic resonant lives there. And we'll talk about that more. And it flows down, all this information flows down to the quantum self, which is one of the chambers in the mental body and the mind. And then it flows to the vital body. Remember, the vital body is the human biofield. It is also the place where all the blueprints for every cell in our body live. And it's what's affected by the environment, by what we think about, by what we eat. It's the vital body, that energetic body that is affected. At any time we react to something or someone, this body becomes less energy and more chemistry, and that chemistry is cortisol. And that's a stress level that a lot of my clients live in, and a high cortisol level. And so they become less wave and more particle. And so it shrinks. It shrinks, and sometimes
the average person, less wave and more particle, right? What does the layman person want to take away from when you say that?
Right. I love this subject, and the reason why is because the wave, or the quantum wave, is what we call in superposition, meaning that it's in multiple states at the same time. And only when we observe it, it's called the observer effect, does it collapse or become a particle, or just, and that is what even a thought is a quantum collapse, and it happens instantaneously. And so that's really important. And one of the reason they proved this through an experiment called the double slit experiment. And if you know about that, you know that when they weren't measuring or they weren't looking at the experiment, it was acting as a wave, but it had an interference pattern. It was perfect. But when they looked at it, it became what would be two bars as they were shooting photons through these two slits on the film. It was like these two bars, and every time they looked away, it would go back into being a wave. So what we're saying is that when we actually observe something, when we become conscious of it, we change the fabric of reality. And that one experiment caused the biggest uprising in the studies of consciousness of any experiment that we know today. And it has been debated, and it's the foundation of everything we do in quantum medicine and everything we believe. And I'm going to prove that, because when we move, and we know that downward causation causes the vital body to be affected. But when we get into the mental body, and this is going to be where we have thought and thinking. Thought and thinking are two different things. Thoughts are nouns, they're passive. And we always have them. There's nothing we can do about that. But thinking is a verb, and it's active. At any time, the only time that we think about anything is when we think about a thought. When we define that, we start to see that this is where the problem lies. That when we don't need to think about thoughts, because when we're doing a puzzle with your kids and you're just into it, and then the phone rings, you've come out of thought and gone into thinking. And so when we take something that happened to us and we start to think about it, and we start to ruminate, and we start to, bounce it around, it becomes a problem. So that's where it stops to flow. So that's what we call the cause of all human suffering. And this is my proof. You remember this, the movie, The Rain Man?
I do.
One of my favorites. Dustin Hoffman, right?
Yep, Dustin Hoffman.
The gentleman's name, it was actually after two gentlemen. One of them is named Mr. Pike. And right between the quantum self and thinking, there's two arrows. That is the corpus callosum. And he didn't have a corpus callosum. That means that the mind is the left brain, and quantum self is the right brain, okay? And he didn't have a corpus callosum, meaning that he didn't have that conflict. So he could read two books at the same time, one with his left brain and one with his right brain, and have it all memorized. All 1,500 pages memorized within the day after he finished reading them.
Because he doesn't have a self-limiting belief.
He didn't have any self-limiting. There was nothing that said you can't do this.
Right. So there's nothing saying that you can't do it. You live in possibility, which is what we were talking about earlier.
That's right. And then you were talking about, can the soul be fractured? Mm-hmm. And we call it the dark night of the soul, because when there's too much thinking, it doesn't allow for the higher downward causation. But what it does do, it backs up like bad plumbing, and it goes all the way to the soul, and it turns it dark. And so that is what we call the dark night of the soul. And some people have, they have premonitions. They have healers like yourself that can help them clean that and get them back into a steady state or homeostasis. But that's where we get, that's the most extreme part of our human suffering, when the mental body. But we've been treating this for years, and the way that we treat it is by meditation, yoga, more recently hypnotherapy, and what you do, neurolinguistic programming. These is what treats the mental body. Not anything else. Well, I mean, Qigong is the other way that treats the mental body. The vital body is where you use acupuncture, homeopathy, quantum biofeedback, spinal flow, energy healing, pranic healing, and some of the things you do. Also, herbal remedies. They all fall into this. New German medicine, all this is all part of that. And that's really interesting because that treats the vital body. But that's only temporary, because as a practitioner, you treat somebody, they feel great. They're talking to the world about how good you are, but yet they go back to the same triggers, the same environment, the same, the same marriage, the same boss, and they go back into their old ways because, they're back into the mental body. That's why we promote so much in the way of meditation, neurolinguistic programming, yoga, Qigong, all those kind of things we promote highly, because we think if you live your life in those styles, we note that those are the happiest people in the world.
Well, right. And if I may add, I help people interrupt these patterns, right? Because what we're really talking about is a pattern, and you have to choose a different pattern if you want a different life. And I kind of want to just give the people who are listening even more hope, right? Because I'm just going to take this down for a second.
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening to this, and there is somebody who needs to hear this, if you've been told, or a loved one has been told, that there is no hope, right? That you've got a terminal illness, or you have to be on drugs for the rest of your life, right? That was the message I received. I want to tell you, as a programmed belief system that's been handed down for many generations, and you don't actually have to choose it unless you want to. You can choose differently. Look, I chose differently. I was just a kid, right? And I was on drugs for 20 years. So name something you think that you did that was dumber than me, than taking 50 drugs at a time, expecting myself to get better. Like, really? Okay. So there's no judgment is my point. So someone's listening, because I hear this, and you need to know that you have a choice. So I'm going to give the platform back to Dr. Gary so he can continue explaining to you about your choices and how the body actually really works. Go ahead.
Absolutely. What you were saying leads me to the supramental body. The supramental body, like I said, is it's a theta brainwave state, is what we identify it with. That is a magical brainwave. We have that from the ages of 2 to 4 years old. And that if you have a 2-year-old, that there is a Santa Claus, there is an Easter Bunny, and they're seeing it. They're imagining it. They have this beautiful brain. And we can get there in literally 5 minutes or less by something called heart math, and it's heart-brain coherence.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most powerful, simple tools that are out there. It started in 1972 by some researchers who found this and have brought it to the mainstream now. And this practice is simply, it's not a meditation. It's a biohack. It's a quantum leap. And we go from the heart to the brain, and the brain talks to the heart more than the brain talks to the heart, because it has this coherence pattern. And it also your heart also has memory.
Yeah.
And this is really important to know. But when we're in heart brain coherence, which we can measure and teach, we bypass the mental body. We've gone around it, and we can treat trauma literally with this small technique. And basically what it is, it's a breathing pattern that is even. The same amount of breath in is the same amount of breath out. Then you focus your attention on your heart. Where you put your energy is where you put your focus is where you put your energy. And then you start to pretend that you're breathing through your heart.
Okay.
And then the last thing that you do after you've gotten that, and I can actually see this on the graph while we were teaching it. So I know where they are. And then the very last thing, as I said, now I want you to imagine the time when you were in love. Not love associated with pain, but maybe a beautiful sunset when you were loved being on that sailboat. Something that was really spectacular that belongs to you and you alone. You
Mm,
take that feeling and you breathe it into your
mm.
heart and you
I'm going to
keep
do that.
doing it. Yes, you keep doing that, and then we're able to actually see that on the graph. And note that some people have a real incredible talent for it. And it's really 5 minutes. And so I teach my clients to do breathing every morning because we've found out that people are shallow breathers. They don't breathe.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
In fact, the first
And
time I did a meditation, I passed out and started snoring in a group.
right.
In a group, right?
Group. Yeah. So what I do is I do a test on my clients, that heart rate variability,
Mhm.
and I can see their autonomic nervous system. I can see their fight or flight or rest and digest. I can see their biological age. I can see their tension index. I can see their psycho emotional state. I see all this through this Lotus Plus, this instrumentation I have.
Mhm.
And then they look at it, and all of them say, well, most of my clients say, oh my God, I'm 10 years older than I should be. I'm in fight or flight. And I tell them this is common. Says what you're telling me is that you have a high cortisol level. You feel fine. That's because you've adapted and you're humming up here when you should be down here.
Right.
So what we do is I say, okay, for the next 6 minutes, we're going to do breathing, and then we're going to remeasure. And when we do that, they're 10 years younger. Their psycho-emotional index has gone to normal. Their neurohormonal index is now balanced. Their fight and flight has, it's a little bit harder to get this fight and flight and rest and digest, balanced out. So we work with them to try to do that. But yeah, it's all because of breathing. So I say their job is every morning to do 7-second breath in, 7-second breath out. Do that 30 times, take a break, and then 2 more times. But when you're doing that breathing, breathe through your heart and think about love. And
And would
that will
you
change
agree
you.
that you can release grief doing that as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this has been proven a lot in because we're bypassing the mental body, and the mental body is where we have that dilemma, where we have that constant, thinking about thought. And I'm going to give you an example of that.
Okay.
When I last year I finished doing some research on a technique called spinal flow in Barcelona, Spain, and there was 100 practitioners that were just learning the spinal flow, and I was elated with the data, and I couldn't wait to get it home. So then after the 7 days, on the 8th day, I gave myself a break, and I was going to a paella cooking class where I love paella. Right, it's just this wonderful, great Spanish food, and I was in the country. And and so I'm walking up. I'm at a real busy intersection, like 8 lanes, and there was, and this little boy just runs out in front of a taxi cab, and it was, it was really something that brought me to my knees, because I had been a first responder, and I felt this, oh, I'm going into PTSD. This was really bad. This wasn't, it wasn't something light. And I did what I could. And then I started walking, and I was saying to myself, don't think, just pray. Don't think, just pray. And that was my mantra for the next 45 minutes. And sometimes I'd stop and say prayer, and I keep going. And then I stop and say prayer again. And when I got to my paella cooking class, it was gone. It was absolutely gone. But I
Right.
had to do it to be able to survive, or else I would have been in a straitjacket. I couldn't have been. I can't. It was
Well,
no other
and I
way.
have similar stories, Dr. Gary. So where, you know, wow. I mean, so look, the day to day. So in my book, I explain how I basically grew up in a war zone, right? And so the family unit was dysfunctional, to be kind
Mhm.
about it. And I do believe part of that was brought on by a cooking debacle. My father, I think I was like maybe, I'm not remembering the exact age. I channeled it for the book.
Right.
Remember now. But I think I was like 6 years old. Okay.
Mhm.
And he brings home a live lobster for my mom to cook. Now, both of them came from nothing. And so they didn't have money when they were kids. And so cooking a live lobster, they didn't have lobster and they didn't know how to cook a lot. And they just kind of like doing as they were told. And, for those of you who are empathic, please put up a grid for what I'm about to tell you now. So, um, so she got out a cold pot of water to cook the lobster, and the screams permeated our souls.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard that. I've heard that
right.
scream. It's a
And
frequency, isn't it? It's that one frequency that just goes right through you.
mhm, yes, and it was an imprint on everyone in our home, and of course the universe, right? Because it does reach the furthest star. But so there was that energy on my heart until 2019, when I was finally able to channel the event and clear the energy on the event, not only for me, but anybody else who was impacted. And it opened up my heart. And that was when I really became knowledgeable, not through your path, but a different path through God. Um, that if I keep on trying to make decisions with my brain, I'm going to get myself into more trouble. So I started actively in 2019 or 18, it was somewhere in there, leading with love, using my heart space to drive my brain space. And I
Mhm.
had heard of heart math from a friend. I never picked up the book. I never listened to a podcast. It was a complete download.
Right?
Yeah. It's like, because I cannot guide anyone with what you're teaching them today, other than be in your heart, lead with love, and pause before we make a decision, so that your brain's not going on autopilot, right? To make a decision that's not rooted in, for me, the Christ consciousness, like in love. And as I understand it now, that I believe touches on the heart math in what you're talking about. Is that
Absolutely.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm
Yeah.
I'm a novice. I will tell you now. I mean, I just know this from a spiritual standpoint. I don't have the education. So, but
Spiritual is very powerful. Very powerful. Yeah. So we were talking about the supermental, and heart math gets us there. This is a real amazing body, the supermental, in that more recently there was, and I mentioned it earlier about these nonverbal autistic children
mm,
that were said they were doing scientific explorations to see if they were telling the truth, and they found out unequivocally that they were. It was it will probably be, because it's so new, one of the greatest finds about consciousness in our decade, for sure. And one of the things that we learned about these children is that they were not appreciated, so they're not being taught. So they would teach themselves, and people go, "How did you come out? You speak 5 languages. How do you do that?" It says, "I do it on the hill," and the hill is the supermental.
yeah.
It is a coherence between the supermental bodies, and they go up there and in a theta state, and they just shut their eyes and put a lot of pillows over their heads, and they just go there, and they're talking to their friends, and their friends are going, Eric's not feeling well. What's wrong? And they go, well, Eric doesn't feel appreciated. He doesn't, he's being treated like a child, and he goes, and he knows he's better than that. And so they teach him how to read. They teach him how to do math. And, they're savants. I mean, they're amazing, amazingly intelligent. And they do have a story to tell for us. So this was more of the proof that I had about the supramental body. And they asked me, how do you know? It says, how do you know that they're in that state? And I said, because they live within the archetypes of love, caring, joy, empathy, appreciation, gratitude. They live there. And they're the purest souls. We found out they can't lie.
Right.
And the reason that they don't have the mental body is because the quantum self is an alpha state. They don't have the alpha wave.
Oh.
They don't have it. Or it's missing, depending on the spectrum, right? Because it could be, vary. But for the most part, they don't have it. And when they don't have it, they don't have that. But it doesn't flow correctly. So they have the vital bodies affected because they don't have the alpha state. And so that's why they have, some unusual movements and they're not thought to be smart or pretty or whatever, because, they don't have the flow, but they have
brilliant.
something, but they have something better. Yeah. There are the, I call them the astronauts of consciousness.
Yes.
And they have so much to teach us, going forward, and especially with my work. I am just finishing my paper. I've been just, waiting a month to just let my mind settle so I can get back into it. And I'm submitted to a one of my favorite journals is the Quantum Science and Consciousness it's Amit Goswami's journal, and it's online. It's pretty fabulous. And so, that's that. And I'll hopefully be able to share that in one of our future podcasts, but it's very exciting to me. The other thing
I know that we're waiting until till July, but to have you back on. But honestly, quite frankly, I'll do an additional podcast outside of the normal days.
Sure.
To bring your wisdom to the rest of the world. So right. And so it looks like Journal of Quantum Science and Consciousness.
Yes.
I'm just going to share that. It doesn't. Let me stop the share here so that I can share a different screen. Here we go. Unfortunately, so I'll try to share this one, but it just ends up being kind of wonky on when I go to post these right now. So, but this is what you're looking for in case you want to check out this magazine. I am going to post this comment in the thread, and hopefully this one comes out. It did. So this is where you're going. Okay. So go ahead and you just copy and paste that and check it out. And so what you're saying is you're going to be published in that journal. Is that right? In the future?
Yeah.
And you probably already have other things published in there, is my guess.
I've submitted one, and it is a peer-reviewed journal, meaning that it passes, to a lot of different eyes before it's published. And I have some in the pipeline right now, so I'm really excited about that.
Yay.
Yeah. And so one of the things I want to touch on in the supramental is the little closet door that has reincarnation karma, ancestral wisdom, and what we call morphic resonance.
Oh, I am in. Yeah.
And morphic resonance is really important because when I did my PhD dissertation and stumbled into it, finding out what happened was actually morphic resonance. And it's a pretty fascinating. It's pretty fascinating. I actually published my dissertation. It's on Amazon. It's called. Let's see. I'll have to look it up. Energetic.
So it's a book on Amazon, or
Yeah, it's a book. And
so let me look you up, Dr.
yeah.
Gary
Mhm.
Montemayor. So
Energetic evolution. Yeah.
so I have the signature program, holistic approach to wellness and age regression.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a different one. There's another one.
Working on it. Let me just do.
Also wrote one about the deep sea. It's called Down the Cayman Wall. So it's on there as well.
So I'll keep on looking for that. It's not showing up very easily, so I'm just going to put books.
Okay. No
And
problem.
what was the other name of the book again?
Energetic evolution. And the other one's called Down the Cayman Wall.
Energetic evolution. All right. Oh, and there you go. Woo. They want me to enter character so that I can look. They want to verify who I am.
Okay.
All right. Continue. Oh,
Yeah.
they're not letting me in.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that book is very scientific, meaning that, half of it will bore you to death, but you have to explain each and every thing that you do in order for it to be. But in that dissertation, I got one of the few people to ever get 100% on the dissertation, and I won an award, an innovation and technology award, and they called it groundbreaking. So I was very excited about that. So that's what got me started into wanting to publish more and study more. It's, when you get that kind of accolade,
recognition, right? So
yeah,
I
it
want to
just feeds the
congratulate you
fire.
on that. And
Thank you.
also let you know that you can add this to your cart on Amazon, Energetic Evolution, Exploring the Quantum Realm of Healing. So I'm definitely buying this book. And I will add this link to our thread in case anybody wants to purchase this book that Dr. Gary wrote. So what do you think it's going to take, Gary, for people to? I mean, the world's in a shift right now, right? They're doing things differently. What do you think it's going to take? Because, we are, as a race, more powerful than we ever gave ourselves credit for, or what anybody else gave us credit for. So what's it going to take? What do you think?
Yeah, that was part of my dissertation too, and it's called collective coherence.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that when we get together and in groups and meditate together for a common cause, when we get together in groups and pray together for somebody's health, or a neighborhood or something, we know that it's more powerful for a group to do this than it is for an individual. So collective coherence. And the basis of my dissertation was collective emotional coherence. And where we saw a group of 100 people go into a different realm, and we measured it, and it was inexplicable until we did it again. And then we go, together we can do anything. We can do anything.
Yeah.
And so it was a fascinating journey into the world of collective consciousness. And I know that that's the most powerful thread that we have, to be able to get together and do that. These podcasts, things like that, are sending out that message. They're sending out that vibration that we all need to get on board with. And the more we do, we find ourselves falling into meditative places of prayer. Churches look different to me now. They're like, I'm jaw dropped. I'm just like, oh my God, being in Spain and seeing that, as recently in London, and just looking at some of the churches. And I just want to go inside. I want to explore. I want to feel.
Right.
Because they're places with powerful, they're powerful places. They didn't build them on that site for no reason. There was a reason, and they felt it. And that's why those are powerful places.
Right. So I'm going to focus on the feeling of that. And we only have a few minutes left, because I always have to be under an hour So I used to go over, but to get it on TikTok and some other platforms, I have to be under 60 minutes. But I want to talk about the feeling. They felt it, and that's why they built it there. They felt the presence of God. And, there are many interferences today that stop us from feeling.
That's right.
And, look, Dr. Gary, do you see people remotely or only in the Cayman Islands or?
Only the Cayman Islands, and the reason is because I need to entangle,
Yeah.
and I need to actually be face to face, hands on, so we can have a heart connection.
Okay.
And then after that, when we're connected, I can do remote.
Okay. So maybe meet if you're not in the Cayman Islands, meet Dr. Gary at one of his locations, and you should follow him on Facebook, on Instagram. Look him up. Make sure that you follow him wherever whatever social media channel that you're using. But what we do, and we're helping you to reconnect to the self. And when you can reconnect to the self, you can stop being led by somebody else's opinion or desire for who they want you to be. And instead, you can be led by Source and what Source intended for you to be. And it's a much easier path to travel once you take the step in that in that direction. And that's somebody like that, Sandra. Thank you.
Hi, Sandra. She's
That's
a
a friend
friend.
of yours. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you,
she's
Sandra.
also I went to my university and studied under the same people. Yeah.
Really, so very
Yeah.
nice. Please connect with me, Sandra. I'd be honored
Yeah.
to know
Yeah.
you.
And also a good friend of yours, we studied under Patrick Porter.
Yeah, I love him. I
Yeah.
love him. He's a brilliant man who leads with his heart. Right.
Yes, he does. Amazing.
So what makes
Special.
you so brilliant, what makes him so brilliant is that look, there's a lot of smart people out there. We can name them all. But if you're leading with your brain and not your heart, it just gets you into trouble. And both of you are the epitome of what I consider the importance of what it is to be human, right? To lead with love. And I'm always a work in progress. I'm always learning. And it's such a gift that the universe brought us together. It's also no surprise.
No, it's not. We are on the same frequency for sure.
Yeah. Uh, so yay for Dr. Porter and his gift to our world, really, right? Thank you, Sandra.
Right.
And can I say yay for Dr. Gary and his gift to our world as well, because what you're doing is groundbreaking. And and Christopher Silva, he's an acupuncturist out of Illinois. Sorry, says he's looking forward to part 2. But
Thank you, Christopher.
yeah, he's a great guy. But it's what you're doing is groundbreaking, and it's giving credibility to what people call as woo-woo. It's not woo-woo, people. No, it's not even close, right?
I can't wait to tell you how we're measuring karma for another episode.
Oh God! So what we're going to do?
Scientifically,
Mhm.
we think we're going to find out how karma exists.
So I'll tell you what. Why don't we end the show now, because we got 40 seconds, and we'll pick another date that's sooner than July, and we can do a show on karma.
It sounds great.
Crap, this is going to be cool. All right. So I just want to say thank you. People, Gary's information is on the thread. I have It's 786-580-6962. So you can connect with him on WhatsApp, follow him on Facebook, connect with him how you wish. I'm going to end the show, and thank you very much.